All right, welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about a few different topics, including how to qualify for Section 8, and this will also be a video to kind of do an introduction. I've made over 400 videos, so we'll talk a little bit about an introduction about me. Then we're going to get into the topic, and I'm also going to be doing some updates. So, first thing you need to know is I'm the owner of Section8Consulting.com. I work with clients and landlords all over America, all 50 states, work with, at present, over 200 landlords. I'd say somewhere in the estimation of 240, off and on, and help them utilize the system in order to be able to accept Section 8 vouchers, especially during difficult times like the pandemic. So I'm going to turn down the phone here real quick, and then we'll get started. All right. So I think a lot of us I get a lot of questions every day. In fact, yesterday I had about 34 calls. I called many people back. I think that a lot of people have questions in regards to some of the more basic elements of Section 8. So I think it's kind of important we address that, and also the qualifying factors that are being considered. I probably at some time covered these topics many, many times in many videos, but I think we'll try to refresh it a little bit and see how much we can learn today. So, all right. So the first thing is when you talk about in principle what Section 8 housing is and dealing with the housing authority, there are a few things we want to consider. One, housing authorities have county employees. That is, there's a housing authority for almost every county in America. Second to that, HUD is the folks that receive federal funds and they disperse that money to the state in those counties. All right. So HUD and your local housing authority are two different entities. And a lot of times when you guys are trying to figure out how to qualify, you're trying to qualify not with HUD, you're trying to qualify with your local housing authority. So Section 8 housing is a federal program that provides vouchers to help low-income families or individuals pay for housing. I mean, that's pretty clear. Program participants can choose their own housing. And as long as you meet those requirements, you may be able to keep that for a lifetime. This is not a temporary program. It is not a 5-year program. It is once you receive, as long as you don't violate your lease, abandon your unit, or do something that would violate your HAP contract or your lease, then you continue to be a participant in the program in your state and county. Let's talk about a secondary aspect that a lot of people ask me about. Yes, you can take after usually the primary rule is if you complete a 12-month lease in your county, you may port or move to another county or to another state. Okay. Now that's a bit of a process there that you would have to do in order to port from one place to another, but you're able to move in all contentious 50 states, including Puerto Rico and Hawaii, if you can afford at least to do so. So when you talk about how does Section 8 vouchers work, well, most PHAs, which is your public housing agency, just to be clear with the acronym, PHA is Public Housing Agency. The federal government provides money to the PHAs, as I'd suggested, which is HUD. What happens when you have a problem with your housing authority? You address that issue with HUD. If it's a bigger qualifying problem, you would address FHEO. All right. So, how much help does Section 8 actually provide? Well, Section 8 rules don't specify a specific dollar amount for individuals or families, but towards the rent, but they do have rent calculations. We're going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And just so you know, guys, I made notes because this is a lot of information. And as much as I would love to be able, after 20 years of doing this, to verbatim every little thing, it would be next to an impossibility. So the PHAs, and so your local housing authority establishes pretty much what the payment standard will be. Now, that's also going to be based on when you apply, what you would qualify for. A family receiving a housing voucher can choose to rent a dwelling that is above or below the payment standard set by the PHA, which is your housing authority. In most cases, recipients must pay 30% of their monthly adjusted gross income. Beyond that, in some cases, this can increase to 40% if the rent is higher than the payment standard. So just to answer questions about that, I think that it's pretty clear, that is a rent calculation. So let's do an example. In the Los Angeles area, the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles, which is known as LACHA, sets the payment standard of a 2-bedroom unit at $2,248. And if you qualify for the program with an income of $2,800 per month, then use the 30% rule, and you'd be responsible for paying $840 towards rent and also utilities. I don't want to get too deep into utilities because some units may or may not include utilities. Okay. In Philadelphia, the payment standard is applied based on fair market rents by zip code. So you guys ask me, well, why can't you just give me an answer no matter where I'm from? Because it does change. The thing that I think most of you fail to understand is you think that, okay, I'm searching Google, I'm going to get all these great answers, but here's the issue with that. Every housing authority operates with a different, almost near set of different rules. So that's why wandering around the hallways of Google and YouTube may not be the best idea when getting accurate information because it literally changes. That's part of what I do as a consultant is understand in principle what each type of housing authority is looking for and how that applies to you. So back to Philadelphia, the payment standard is applied based on fair market rents by zip code. Standards are categorized as basic, traditional, mid-range, opportunity, or high opportunity rents based on where properties are located. So a two-bedroom units in a basic rent area would have a payment standard of $1,000, $1,012. Meanwhile, a two-bedroom unit in a high opportunity rent area has a payment standard of $1,870. Assume you're approved for the program with an income of $1,900 a month. You would choose a unit in the middle that has a payment standard of $1,287. You would be responsible for paying $570 towards rent and utilities. So baseline payment standards do not indicate what a landlord can charge for rent. And let's talk about landlords and rent and how much they charge. So the pandemic, a lot of people didn't pay rent, right? A lot of landlords have now raised rent to overcompensate for the mortgage they can't pay. And in other situations, we also have an overheated housing market where people, and pretty much including landlords, feel that market rates have gone up, so they are justified behind raising rents to obscene amounts. And we're seeing that play out all throughout the nation. At minimum 20%, and it can go as high as 40%. And we should expect another hit on this market probably this year for an additional 16% increase in rents. So is the housing authority keeping up with that? No, they're not really. So what I see a lot of people doing right now is they're bouncing from one county to another, trying to port a voucher where it's affordable. And in other cases, people are transcending several states in order to find affordable housing. If you live in crazy places like Los Angeles or Orange County or certain parts of Florida, the opportunities are difficult because the housing market is saturated. So let's talk about why Section 8 exists and a little bit about its history. Now, the first thing I want to clue you guys into is, we talk about HUD a lot, and most people, I want to talk about that acronym, talking about Housing and Urban Development Department of Indian Affairs. I don't think a lot of you realize that the original intent of HUD is ability to collect money from the government, disperse those funds to the housing authority. There was a certain intent to help. That's what they call Indian Affairs. People leave it all, was to help American Indians. Of course, it's become more inclusive over the decades and decades of trials. One of the more interesting things about Section 8 is over these years, as we look at Section 8, from the baseline program back in the 70s and 80s, things have changed rapidly. There are a great deal more rules. There's a lot of more U.S. title codes. And so what you have is decades on decades and decades of rules that keep changing and evolving. Every time you get a new president, they have a new mandate and they change the rules again. So trying to keep up with that, multiplied by thousands of housing authorities that have their own idea of how they want to deal with things locally, creates a really, really interesting and complex way to try to deal with Section 8. So that's why I tell people, like I had a lady yesterday I spoke with, she became offended very quickly when she hit me with a very basic question. Now, mind you, I do consulting work, so people pay for that. She got upset when I was unable to tell her how Section 8 works. It was a very broad question. I simply told her I don't have 5 hours to sit on the phone and teach you that. I'm not 211. I don't work for free. I'm not in the housing authority. And so I'm sure as the hell not going to sit on my, when she goes to work, she gets paid to do her job, and so I feel the same way. But anyways, So let's talk about that existence. Section 8 program exists to help low-income families, as I had mentioned before. The program was authorized by Congress back in 74, developed by HUD to provide housing subsidies for eligible renters. A subsidy means a discount, a coupon. Look, if you're using this, you're getting a discount against rent. That is the most elemental and basic way to consider it. Section 8 voucher requirements. So who qualifies for Section 8? Well, just about anybody that's low income or extreme low income. Of course, there's a wide range of other people that could qualify as well, which are anybody from children that are aging out of group homes and foster care, all the way up to somebody that's a senior, a veteran, disabled, a domestic violence victim, and so on. There are so many different preferences where you could be considered. But one thing you can't do is be wealthy and use this. Income limits. People who apply for Section 8 are subject to income limits, which are set annually by HUD. These income limits are calculated as a percentage of the median income for individual areas of the country. Notice the key word, individual areas of the country, meaning different zones. There are 3 income limit tiers. Extremely low income means 30% of the area's median income level. Very low income, 50% of the area's median income level, and moderately low income, and this is the last leg of it, 80% of the area's median income. So how much money are people making in the town that you're in? And that's going to be conducive with that math that I just explained. So if you're in somewhere like New York where people can get paid, hundreds of thousands a year, you're moderately low income, you could actually make a considerable amount and still qualify for Section 8. If you're in a southern state where nobody virtually makes that much money, then your moderately low income would be pretty low. You'd have to almost be working at the dollar store. Another thing I can tell you guys is HUD offers an online query tool that you can use to check your income limits for the area. And I'm going to link you up to that real quick. So just give me a second, and I'm going to drop that link directly into live chat. And I do see you guys are hitting me with some questions. I'm going to get to that in a minute. So there is your HUD user portal database, and you'd utilize that to look at some of those rents if you're curious about that. So let's talk about citizen status. And look, guys, I'm going to make sure I get all the way through this. I know you guys have questions, but I'm going to get through all the notes and everything that I intended on speaking about. Section 8 eligibility is limited to U.S. citizens and non-citizens who qualify for certain immigrant categories. When you apply for Section 8, you and every person in your household must sign a certification form stating that you are a U.S. citizen, an eligible alien, or choosing not to claim eligibility status. In other words, anybody could apply. Declaration is not enough to meet HUD standards for verifying citizenship. However, your PHA could ask for an additional documentation, including U.S. passports, resident alien cards, registration cards, Social Security cards. So I'm not going to go too deep into that because I don't believe that's a qualifying issue for this video. Let's talk about family status. Section 8 applicants also have to meet HUD's definition of a family. A family for HUD is an individual or a group of individuals. And notice the word curiously put, a group of individuals. You don't necessarily have to be related in the household. Sometimes you have 2 households that are combined into one. That is acceptable. Having children, having a family member that's 62 and older, having a family member who's disabled, having been displaced from the home for an eligible reason, living with a person receiving Section 8 but lives alone after family members have moved out. A single person can qualify for Section 8, and you don't need to have children to be eligible. Guys, you still view Section 8 as it was back in the 80s. You do not need to have a bunch of children, okay? Eviction history will play a big part in that, both whether you can get this and also at present whether or not a landlord even wants to fool with you. So though you get the voucher, does not necessarily mean that your eviction history is going to be pleasing to the landlord. Remember, you're playing by 2 different sets of rules here. One, which the housing authority says, hey, do you qualify? Maybe we're going to give you a voucher. And then you get that and you think that, oh, wow, that's so great. And then you go out there and find out most landlords don't want to deal with it. However, we live in different times and evictions are not viewed as badly as they used to be. All right, so here's the big old question, how to apply. God, if I hear that question one more time. So anyways, let's talk about applications real quick, and I'm going to give you my best advice about this. It's pretty clear about how to apply. You go into Google, you type in your city plus Section 8, and then it'll show you a housing authority. So let's give you an example real quick. If you put in there housing authority, Houston, Texas, you'll see the housing authority. Usually on there, the first thing you want to do is search around to see whether or not the housing authority is open, whether or not they have an open waiting list. And then usually in most cases, they have an online portal where you fill out your information, and then you may go on a waiting list, or they may decide to issue. Look, these applications are designed to be clever in many different ways, and I've told that to many of my clients over the years. Questions are often put in a very tricky way, and so answering wrong, not checking the right boxes could potentially cost years or even a decade. Look, there are some people in certain situations that are going to qualify much higher than others. If you know the rules in which you're playing by, you do a lot better with this. I see a lot of people who think they are the smartest person in the room. They go out there, they fill out these applications, and they get stunned when they don't get a call for 15 years. I've had people that are former lawyers, engineers, really thought their IQ was to the ceiling. They fill out an application and completely fucked it up. Okay, so let me be very broad in saying that. Um, Look, there's a lot contentiously you need to know before you ever put a pen to paper. If you don't really know what you're doing, I get it. Everybody knows how to put their name, their address, and phone number. We're not talking about that. There are preferences and questions built into these applications can mean the difference between a lifetime. And if you don't know, then it's going to go badly for you. There's also other demographics and issues you want to look at about the city size, the population size, the homeless base, and what is the particular reasons the housing authority is willing to grant or issue vouchers. It changes rapidly. If they say to you, hey, this list is open, it does not necessarily mean that it's open to everybody. It means that everybody's willing to apply, but they're only going to give vouchers to a set subgroup of people that they're interested in giving it to. It'd be preferential that you knew what those things were before you did it. Lotteries or one of the bigger jokes in my opinion, because when you say the word lottery, you think about when you go to the gas station, you buy a lotto ticket or maybe a scratch off, right? So you think in normal process, that's what a lottery is for them. It is not. Lotteries often have mini lotteries. In other words, people who have preferences go into a little bubble and they move that bubble of people to the top. And those that are just have a low income job with not that many problems. Those are the people that go into a much bigger bubble, kind of like a herd of people, and that big fat bubble goes straight to the bottom. And the more people that enter with a lot of problems continue to be put and moved to the top, and then the big bubble of people that simply just make a low income with no problems, they get pushed further and further down. That's why a lot of housing authorities are no longer willing to discuss what number you are, because wouldn't it be a big surprise if 5 years later you dropped an additional 1,000 spots? This is a game best said. Well, let me tell you this. If we call it a lottery, does that not imply that this is somewhat of a game? And one thing I always tell my clients is this: if you're going to play the game, you better do it better than the people that created it. If you're walking into this ill-informed, or you're sitting there reading outdated articles on Google, and look, I have searched the depths of Google for information. How can you take the advice of articles written by news reporters on Google? These people are giving you generalized advice. Most of it's completely worthless. And even if it was accurate, it would have been written 4 or 5 years ago, and it would only be accurate to the point of one county they're discussing. It wouldn't be accurate for every housing authority in America because they all operate differently. So that just renders Google completely and utterly useless. Same thing with YouTube. We've got more people that spend half their week as a party clown at a children's party, and then when they get on their YouTube channel, they all of a sudden become an expert at Section 8, but yet they cannot yield one fact. Then they move from that, and then by Sunday, when they do their last video, they're now the master consultant for fidget spinners. You see my point? If you're going to deal with people and have a true understanding of what Section 8 is, how to utilize it, and get through the system, then get with a consultant or get with somebody that does know. Now, a lot of you wonder the halls of the housing authority. Look, these people are paid to do one thing. That is to read your application to determine whether or not they're going to give you a voucher. These people, when you call them, they're not going to educate you on all of Title 24, U.S. Code, policy, procedures, data manuals, and all that. They're not going to do that because they don't have the time, and most of them don't have the patience. Those of you who have been through the system and failed many, many times, you know just how condescending, rude, and oftentimes in depth that the people are at housing authorities. Most of them have not been there that long. Most of them have never even read through most of the stuff that I've had. So you see the point. So what I'm going to do right now, we're going to go to some comments here because I need to take a break on all the notes. All right, Cindy, good morning. Oh, looks like Cindy's from Russia. She's selling blow-up dolls, so we're going to go ahead and put her out the channel. All right, so I got to get rid of Cindy. Oh, Cindy's back again. Get rid of her again. Well, I hate when people do that. Get in the channel and they're trying to sell Viagra and blow-up dolls. Get that a lot. All right, gently moving. Are one-bedroom vouchers easier to get generally because less than 20% of the applicants apply? Actually, you have your math backwards on that. Gently moving. The one units the most in demand is going to be one bedroom. Second to that would be two. You'd have a better chance of moving into a 7-bedroom. Go to Sybil. Message was retract. I don't know why your message was retract, Sybil, but try again. John Smith. So how does your payment process work? Well, I use, first of all, for you guys that don't know, I have a website and I have booking software. If you ever want to know anything about my company, you can call the Secretary of State of Texas. They'll be happy to give you my DBA, EIN information, and my tax incorporation, okay? But as far as the payment status goes, that would be, I'm just giving you some links real quick. I'm going to paste this in. This is the booking software. This is the website. And then you check it out from there. I've got reviews all over Google. I got them all over the booking software. So, I've done this long enough. I'm not worried about my reputation. It's stellar. I don't ever worry about that. Looks like Harry Patter selling blow-up dolls. So we're going to put him out the channel. Decided to get rid of him. All right. Jojo Gurr, welcome back. Well, thank you, Jojo. Good to see you. Blinky, hello. If the PHA lease ends in May, can a landlord evict a tenant before that time for renovation? There is no behavior or destruction problems. Okay. So, Blinky, the thing about that is they can wish all they want to, but until they give you fair notice, they cannot terminate a lease like that. They'd have to seek the personal permission and to have contract with the housing authority for that to even work. Christopher Poussant, hey, man, what's going on? Good to see you. So I had to choke down a lot of coffee. As y'all guys know, I've been sick for a while. I was down in Arkansas, and I've been struggling a little bit. But, I thought today would be a good day to show my face and just kind of get warmed up. I know you guys saw I was out there for 3 weeks, and I've been struggling to deal with, I've been struggling with casework and clients. It's just been kind of rough lately, but I'm doing a little bit better today. Carissa Adams, I applied for the housing authority in the county next to me, sent a certified letter for confirmation letter they wanted. I missed the deadline to clarify preferences. Can I get around that? Yes, you can on recertification, or you can simply just contact them directly. Blinky, and read the comment from Blinky, the renovation is not because of a fire, water damage, mold apartment not passing PHA inspection. Well, actually, it's not a PHA inspection, it's an HQS inspection. So anyways, looks like that was all the questions. So, today is a little bit of a slow morning. I know Saturdays, I know better than making videos on Saturdays, but I wanted to kind of get out here and talk to you all a little bit. We're planning a lot more, I think, because we have a lot to cover. 2022, the rules have changed yet again. And so that means there's a lot of changes that we need to really consider when applying with housing authorities. Now, it's been I got hammered pretty hard in January. People looking for housing, trying to get vouchers, trying to move around, a lot of portability issues lately. And a lot of people have called me, I guess, for the portability because their own cities, they can't find places. So I understand how dire it definitely can get. And I anticipate from now probably through June, July, August that we're probably fixing to have a pretty rough year with housing. The good news is a lot of federal funding that was issued by the United States Treasury, and the last two presidents are coming through. So they're building a lot of additional low-income housing. I think that's going to be a benefit to this. We're starting to see it being built. As most of you know, we've just survived. We're over now 2 years through this pandemic, multiple viruses. And so I think a lot of those funds are starting to be used appropriately now. All right, moving on from that. There are going to be some changes to this channel, and I'm going to go over that real quick. One, I'm going to be changing the hours, probably from the morning to the afternoon for consults, because I've got a lot of things that I need to do. We're reopening the Houston Rock Shop. So, as many of you all know, if you've been around my channel for a while, I talk about a number of different things that may not be related to the video, but that's because I like for you guys to kind of get a true consensus of who I am outside of the just doing consulting work and videos. So I think that we're going to be reopening the Houston Rock Shop. And for those of you that live in and around the Houston area, you could drop by. I'm getting the articles of incorporation, I think, in about a week or two. And then we'll be opening over at the flea market. So that'll be kind of neat for those of you that like gems, crystals, minerals, and so on. Also, there's been a lot of requests about the cats. Many of you know over the 400 or 500 videos I've made, they always have cats in them, some of them, not all of them. And so in the next video, we'll be featuring Big Pops and a few of the other cats. Y'all know I'm a big pet lover. As a matter of fact, the membership for this channel is specifically designed for pet lovers, so it is what it is. Keep it interesting. If you're going to do the work I do, you have to spice it up somehow. Beyond that, I think we're going to wrap this video up. I think I covered a little bit of the baseline information I wanted to include. I think that probably Sunday, Monday, or Tuesday, I'm going to make another video, and we're going to be doing channel updates. And then we're going to be talking a little bit more about how to get vouchers quicker than the average citizen. There are many, many methods to this, and I think that this would be a useful tool. Should also keep in mind January, February, March, and April are great months to seek out housing to get vouchers, because that's the part of the year when most people don't like to move. It's also the part of the year, it's the newest part of the year when most federal funds are rolling. In other words, the housing authorities are flush with cash. And if they're going to make preferential decisions to give out vouchers, it's usually during the stretch of the year. If you want to do this badly, wait till summertime and then try to call a consultant when it's nuts and it's chaos. People tend to be like ants. They all want to do things at the same time when it's the warmest and prettiest during the summer. If you're a smart person, you'll attempt to do this while we're still in winter months in the early part of the year. You'll find that your success rate will be much higher than it will be mid-year, okay? It's good seeing y'all all. And for those of you that have consulting appointments with me or casework, you can reach out to me today. I'll be free most of the day. And again, we'll see y'all next time. Okay. Bye.